Yeah, baby. I want you to be mine again, baby. I know my lifestyle is.
Alright, so it's no secret that the tier list I made yesterday, people weren't super happy about. And I'll own up to a few of the mistakes. But this is what I had yesterday, and then now this is the new tier list. As you can see, it's quite a bit different from what we had yesterday. And I guess let me just start going over kind of the changes that I did make. This time I remembered to add Alucard. I do think he is the best unit in the game, purely due to the fact he has the best support ability in the game by increasing all damage by 25%. There's no replacing that. Gogeta, this is where I'll say it gets to a point where you can kind of just do interchangeable. I would say from Gogeta to Ragna, you can say these three units are all interchangeable however you like. I will say my personal opinions. I feel like Gogeta is he does damage. He just is too. He's quite is a bit expensive, all things considered. That being said, he teleports all around the map. Saber, insane ability. It allows her to do up to 300k, and it's not limited by global cooldown, so you can have all three of her doing the same thing for a total of essentially 900 million. Not to mention she does pushback for her first like 5 to 6 attacks, and I think so. Yeah, I think all around she's probably one of your better units. The next up we have is Ragna. Infinite damage potential. Only problem is if you're using him, you pretty much have to build your team around him for the most part, which I don't really like. But I won't deny the amount of damage he does. Next up we have Gilgamesh. He has the best nuke in the game. He's immune to most status effects and is double element. So that's why he's as high as he is. There's really no changing that. Gojo, people were mad at me for the last video, so I had Gojo at the top, which is just really a mistake that I made since I was rushing it to video done. That being said, Gojo still belongs in the S tier, and my reasoning for that is similar to Gilgamesh. He's immune to almost all status effects. Not a lot of units can say that, and I guess the biggest like comparison I can give is I don't really. It doesn't matter if you pop Saber's ability if she's being stunned for like 10 seconds. Like that's kind of an issue for me. I'm sorry. So like, while yes, Gojo's damage isn't as good as a lot of other characters, he still has a time stop, which is really good. There's no denying that. It increases his damage by 50%, so he has a mini nuke within himself. So like, yes, he's not super great damage, but his ability is really good, and the fact that he's immune to almost all status effects, and it has technically an infinite damage ceiling, much like Ragna. I feel like he still deserves S tier. I'm sorry. If you want to say he's top of A tier or bottom of S tier, I'm fine with that. But for me, he still is an S tier unit. Next up is another thing people got mad at me for is putting Vegeta over Lancer. And I will tell you my fucking reasoning, because I'm pretty sure I said it, but maybe I didn't. Vegeta is the best starter unit in the game. Lancer is the second best starter unit. But, if you're playing on a map that has regen, Lancer is better than Vegeta. They're interchangeable. It doesn't really matter. If it's a map without regen, you're gonna use Vegeta. If you don't have a Monarch unit and you need a starter unit, Vegeta is your go-to. If it's a regen map and you don't have Vegeta, you're going Lancer. Vegeta does 1k more damage. I'll show you what I mean by that right here. So right here we have Lancer stats, and you can see at upgrade 2, he does around 4k every 6 seconds. Vegeta, on the other hand, at upgrade 2, does 5.6k every 5 seconds. That's almost 400 more DPS. And for 300 more yen essentially to max him out, or to get him to that point. So for overall starter unit, not your main DPS unit, Vegeta is better. Alright? I'm not disregarding how good Lancer is. There's a reason why he's still in S tier. Because he's good. But if you want a starter unit, a starter DPS, you're going with Vegeta. Unless it's a regen map. Fuck you guys.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
Moving on to A tier, we have Diavolo, who is insane support. I think for me the biggest problem with him is that he suffers with Gogeta being single placement, which means like you can't really the only really good trade on him is Monarch, so I feel like I just can't justify him putting any higher. Valentine's the unit I don't have, and you can't evolve him because the devs are fucking dog shit and have him fix his Evo quest. But from what I heard and what I've seen, he's a really good unit for just like normal stages. Rum and Rum for me are still really good DPS units since they're cheap full AoE, cheap to max out, really good boss killer ability, just all around really solid. Archer, he has a really good ability. He does decent damage. I would say good damage since I think he does like 20k with a 50% chance to crit. He's a better Shahane, who's will forever stay in D tier. But moving on, then we have Toji. Once again, insane utility, being able to break shields, does more damage to bosses if you want him to. Just all around, still really good. Sukuna, I'm not denying he's good. The thing I like about Sukuna is that he is immune to snare and stun when you have him to his last attack. But the biggest problem for Sukuna is he pretty much essentially loses his passive to do damp or bleed amp, which for me is kind of a bummer since he doesn't. The problem with Sukuna is his nuke isn't as good as any of the other nukes in the game right now. Other than I think it might be better than Ishtar's. I think it is better than Ishtar's, but his nuke just isn't as good as it used to be, and it's just like that alone. I feel like kind of pushed him back. That being said, he does have a cheap AoE ability, which is why he's still, I would say, a mid A tier unit. Moving up, we have Kareem, who really only suffers from the fact you need to run a burn unit with him. Other than that, 40k damage every 8 seconds with 57 range and then 50% DOT on top of that and freezes. To me, that's insane. So he's still going to be mid A tier. Next up, we have Dio. And I'll be quite blunt with you, Dio is ass, except for the fact he has a cheap time stop. That's why he's as high as he is. And honestly, I would say if he didn't have his time stop, he would probably be like in B tier. But the fact he has his time stop for me puts him in B. It's like mid A tier, mid to low A tier. Then we have our two freeze units. Right now, Amelia's quite. She's an okay option for DPS. She's not going to be your main option, but for a support unit, she does do solid DPS, and that's why she's as high as she is. Julius, I feel like similar situation. For a support unit, he does do decent DPS, and honestly, what I'm thinking about, I'll put him at the very bottom of A tier. For the problem with him, and I guess the same why Amelia is so much better is that she increases the freeze duration, while Julius is more just pure damage. And then obviously we have Choso. There's not much that can be said about him other than the fact that he's full AoE bleed. His bleed lasts long enough that by the time in between each attack, they won't be regenning since he attacks fast enough. Ishtar, she's going to be, I think, maybe after this next update, she's probably just going to be, well, no. She does have a nuke. It's not great, but it's still a nuke. And then obviously she buffs Fate units, and obviously next unit is going to be Fate. That's kind of why she's just an A tier for now. Icarus, obviously, I guess you guys kind of realize he's just not as good as he once was anymore. I do have Monarch on him, so I'm a little bit biased. I think that's why I had him a little bit higher last time. But for me, I think bottom A tier is pretty suitable for him, since I feel like he still does good damage to bosses. He is immune to stun. So, like, he still has a really good kit, it's just power crept. Next up, we have Gyro and Johnny, who, another two characters I don't have. That being said, from what I heard, they're really solid DPS units. If you don't have any, like, I would say, like, A tier units, they're good options. And Johnny does do stun from what I'm aware of, so that's why they're top of B. Jogo, for me, is probably just the best burn unit right now. All around though, burn units are kind of dead right now. Despite the fact that we got sorcery, the battle pass, burn's just not really viable right now. We need to they need to drop like a really good burn unit like next update or in like the next two updates for like burn to be good again, since it's just not great right now. If you want burn to be good, you have to like build an only burn team, which the problem is they just don't have that high a DPS. Next up, we have Medea and Medusa. I feel like they're two interchangeable units. They both have decent abilities, and they both do decent damage all around. So that's why they're in B tier. Just because I feel like their abilities don't outshine anybody in like A tier, other than maybe like I wouldn't even say Medea's abilities like all that, but Medusa's can't stun wherever she wants. So they're all around solid units. I just don't think they're anything better than any of the units in A tier right now. Tenjin and Sunjin Wu. Um, I'll just say I'll group kind of the rest of the units in A B tier from like Tengen all the way down to like I'll say Obito. Um, all those units are solid like backup options. Like if you don't have anybody in A tier, they're all right to use. They don't do as much damage as a lot of the other units, but they're still decent options if you need them. Next up, we have Okarun. He's just pure damage and kind of that's not that good either. Sorcery, I feel like you maybe can move him up a little bit more since he does do 50% burn damage, but to me, he's just not that great. Same can be said about Granny Psycho and their burn unit, just not that great. Momo's only in B tier since she's one of the few nature units. If she wasn't nature, she'd probably be in probably D tier actually. But I mean, in terms of nature units, we have so few right now. It's a problem, and honestly. I'll probably be more realistic and say she's C tier right now. Um, then we have Akaza, power crap, horrid, bad damage, bad AoE. Unfortunately, right now. Datara, just not a good unit for a battle pass unit. I think this is the weakest battle pass we gotten. Um, but to me, he's just not that good. He blows himself up for more damage. It's just not good. Shaheen, power crap. She just doesn't do enough damage to be viable unless you have a good trade on her, which then you can maybe put her in C or B tier, but she's not going anywhere near A tier. There's no changing my mind on that. If you want to put her C or B tier, I'm fine with that, but for me, she just can't be any higher. She just doesn't do enough damage anymore. Too heavily carried by the fact that she can attack, or yeah, essentially counter attacks. So yeah. Toto, shitty ability, shitty damage, shitty everything. Naruto, shitty everything. So that's why they're there. And then for supports, we have one new support unit, that being Rengoku, since Rengoku right now does pitiful damage. If you're looking at him from a pure damage point, he's going to be probably D tier, maybe bottom of C tier. But Purgatory Flames does increase damage, burn damage, I believe, by 30%. So that obviously has a play, but that being said, it's locked behind like upgrade 9 or 11, which is horrendous. So honestly, I feel like if I didn't put him in support tier, he would have been D tier. So that's kind of just a pity placement. And then obviously the rest of support is still the same. Most of the support tier units are kind of just interchangeable however you want. Not everybody needs them, or they all have their different uses, which is why they are where they are. But yeah. I hope you guys liked it. I think this is a lot more of a fair rating than it was last time, I'll admit. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.